Mamushi is one of the strongest Shinjus in Boruto's manga, and also has one of the most broken jutsus we've ever seen. The power to divide to an almost limitless extent, creating copies of himself that retain the full power and strength of the original. This surpasses the prowess of mere shadow clones, but there's also a major downside. You see, while it might seem as if this jutsu is unbeatable, there's a way around it, and it all goes back to Mamushi's Rinnegan. See, chapter 27 revealed many important details on how his ability functions. To stop him from duplicating, one must destroy both his eyes. This includes the eyes of his clones as well, as each clone is as real as the original. There's no splitting of chakra, no reduction in physical strength. These are in essence separate instances of his own existence. So given the destructive prowess of this ability, one would think the goal would be to prevent him from duplicating in the first place, but that isn't really the case. You see, as I said at the start of the video, Mamushi is one of the strongest Shinjus born from the Ten Tails. He has shown the ability to press even Boruto himself. Despite the fact that Mamushi was created using the chakra of a regular human, he still has the best feats among the Shinju aside from Jiraiya himself. This stems from the fact that he was able to somewhat speed blitz Boruto in chapter 4. And I say somewhat since Boruto was able to react by blocking the attack but not fast enough to outright dodge it. And unlike Kawaki's feat against Hidari, Boruto was standing on the ground and looking directly at Mamushi when it happened. So it wasn't off guard or off balance. Mamushi is just that fast. He then crashed him through multiple structures and even tanked his Chidori stream without getting paralyzed. While of course Hidari was stunned by Stardust. He's the only one who got Boruto to have that panicked look on his face and run away using FTG. Then he later caught Boruto's sword in full swing with no problem. So this guy is clearly busted. And it makes sense since his target is Ada, a character stated to be greatly above Jigen in power. Which also means that he must also find a way to defeat Daemon, who protects Ada. Now this doesn't mean that he has to be stronger than Ada or Daemon, since Ada can't really fight, but he has to be relative to them in power for this matchup to even make sense. So imagine Mamushi at full power, but also with his intelligence intact, because without creating clones there wouldn't be any weakness to exploit, such as a significant drop in his intelligence and a dulling of his pain receptors. That is why the goal of this fight is to get him to divide himself, let him reach at least 20 to 30 bodies. This is when they'll become easier to handle, akin to dealing with animals. That's because even with immense strength that is retained with each duplication, it's all irrelevant if he doesn't have the intelligence to use that power properly. An example of this would be akin to a kid with a deadly weapon. He could cause damage if he knew what he was doing, but he doesn't. So that leads to him being easily disarmed. It also goes back to what Deidara said after easily defeating the Three Tails. It has incredible power but not the intelligence to properly wield it. And in the context of the Boruto manga, the clones themselves suffer from this lack of intelligence in a tangible way. As pointed out by Shikamaru, Mamushi could simply leave one of his clones behind. So even if they destroy all of them, he could always just spawn more from his location. But because he becomes less intelligent each time he separates, the clones tend to flock together instead, removing this very obvious advantage. This is just one example of the extent to how simple-minded he becomes after he duplicates, which would only prove more detrimental in actual combat. Now, I would argue that if he was that intelligent initially, he wouldn't divide in the first place, unless he doesn't know that he becomes less intelligent each time he divides. I mean, why would anyone clone themselves upwards of 30 times when just one division is a significant drop in intelligence? Especially if one already possesses the power to contend with Boruto. At best, a single clone should be enough, but you could also argue that because he becomes significantly less intelligent after the first division, he just continues to divide himself after that. Those say that he isn't that stupid with over 4 clones of himself being active, because he at least remembered to keep his chakra signature hidden to secretly invade the village. With that said, there's the question of why he received this ability, since Bug himself didn't have any. As seen with the other Shinju, they tend to possess abilities of the person they copied. Hidari received Chidori and Fireball Jutsu from Sasuke, Ryu received Iron Sand from Shinki, and Matsui received Wood Release from Moegi. Yes, even though Moegi has never used Wood Release in the manga or anime, she is stated to possess the ability in Boruto's databook. So while you can say that this is just the ability of the Ten Tails, she is the only one that has shown the ability to use it aside from Jura, who is the literal incarnation of the Ten Tails itself. He also has the ability to use the Biju Bomb because, again, he's the embodiment of the Ten Tails. So the same reason why the other Shinju haven't shown Biju Bomb capabilities is the same reason why none of them, aside from the one whose captive had the ability to use Wood Release, haven't used it. They simply don't possess the unique powers of the Ten Tails aside from the typical body modification, which is possible due to its body composition. Now the Bug Shinju does also possess the ability to hide his chakra signature, but that's an Otsutsuki ability, not the Ten Tails ability. So in the same way that these Shinjus possess the ability to use the claw marks, they also possess the ability to suppress their chakra, a likely courtesy of Code's Karma Seal. In any case, this doesn't explain why Mamushi has this ability. You could say that this is the power of the Ten Tails to create fission beings as seen back in Naruto. The problem is that these fission beings were the exact opposite of Mamushi's clones. They weren't copies of the Ten Tails, nor did they retain the power and strength of the Ten Tails. Far from it actually. These were in essence mindless entities created from the mold of the Jubi, akin to the Clawgrimes. They weren't powerful in any sense of the word and posed almost zero threat to the average ninja. Though there is a Biju that possessed the ability to duplicate itself, and of course I'm referring to the Three Tails. These were in essence miniature versions of the Biju that only existed within its body and used to devour foreign entities. So it wasn't able to create an exact copy of itself at the same size or power levels, but you could say there are some similarities here to some extent. There's also the instance of Obito releasing the God Tree from his body while still remaining the Ten Tails Jinchuriki. This should be impossible since the Ten Tails grows into the God Tree, which means the Ten Tails is the God Tree. So some have theorized that Obito was somehow able to clone the Ten Tails, thus retaining its power while also using the other copy to cast the Infinite Tsukiyomi. This of course doesn't make much sense since that implies that when Madara absorbed the God Tree after becoming the Ten Tails Jinchuriki, he actually had the power of two Ten Tails. So the far more likely case is that he simply separated the tree portion of the Ten Tails from the Gedo statue, which was shown to be possible even long before that. So you could say that Mamushi's ability is an amplified form of this one. I did point out in my review video that you can see the connection between the name of the character and how the ability functions to some extent. A bug represents a defect in the system, or in the code per se. And when that code is then copied onto another system or the corrupted mainframe is then connected to multiple systems, that defect is then replicated throughout the entire network. The clones of Mamushi operate in the same way. They aren't supposed to lose intelligence the more they duplicate, but because of this defective code or bug in the system, it ends up happening. And then these defective clones end up creating more clones with the same issue. This all ties back to Ikimoto's fascination with computer science. Ada is a reference to the popular computer programmer Ada Lovelace. Damon is a reference to a computer program that runs in the background without direct user interaction, which is referring to the autonomous nature of Damon's reflection Shinjutsu. And then you have code, which is of course referring to a computer code. You have other examples of this throughout the entire manga with the karma, compression, and just scientific ninja tools in general, but I think you guys get the point. I also have a comment from Alex that I found very plausible. He said that he thinks Ikimoto named him that way because a normal human shouldn't be that powerful even when turned into a Shinju. So the bug itself makes him that strong. So in essence, we're pretty much saying a similar thing, but he takes it even further to explain why Bug is so powerful. You'd think the Bug Shinju would be the weakest given his point of origin, but he's either the third or second strongest behind Jura or maybe Hidari. So the idea of his immense strength and even the specific defects in his clone ability are in essence a bug in the system does make logical sense. With that said, that's all on Mamushi's clone ability so far, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. I might make a video that goes in depth on the differences between each clone jutsu in the Naruto universe, including Mamushi's, so if you guys want to see that, let me know in the comments. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed it, drop a like. If you're new, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.